Kiko had a plan. He always had a plan. He was a small brown monkey who lived in the tallest mango tree at the edge of the jungle kingdom. And every single morning he did the same thing. He climbed to the very top branch, wrapped his long tail around it, hung upside down, and watched. He watched the butterflies. He watched the river. He watched the zebras argue about nothing. But mostly, more than anything else, Kiko watched the lion. The lion's name was King Roar, and he was everything Kiko was not. Big, golden, slow-moving. The kind of creature that made the whole jungle go quiet just by walking through it. Every morning King Roar would climb onto the great rock, a flat, wide boulder in the center of the jungle clearing, and sit there in the sunshine, and all the animals would gather, and whatever King Roar said, the animals listened. Kiko watched this from his mango tree and felt something hot and restless in his chest. He said to himself very quietly that he could do that he could sit on a rock and give orders and have everyone listen. How hard could it possibly be? The answer, as it turned out, was very hard. But Kiko had not discovered that part yet. His best friend was a small green parrot named Pip, who had opinions about everything and was not shy about sharing them. Pip landed on the branch beside Kiko one morning and tilted her head at him the way she did when she thought he was being particularly foolish. She asked him what he was looking at with that expression on his face. The expression, she noted, that he usually wore just before he did something that ended with both of them running very fast in the opposite direction. Kiko said he was thinking about becoming king. Pip stared at him. She said slowly and clearly that he was a monkey. She said that King Roar was a lion. She said these were two facts that she felt were quite relevant to his plan, and she hoped he would consider them carefully. Kiko said that the crown was just a crown. It was just a circle of woven vines and jungle flowers that King Roar wore on his big golden head. And if someone else were wearing it, that someone else would be king. That was how it worked. Pip opened her beak. She closed it again. She said, "You know this is going to end terribly." Kiko was already halfway down the tree. Now, do you know what a crown is? A crown is a special hat that a king or queen wears on their head to show that they are the ruler. It is usually made of gold or, in the jungle, woven vines and bright flowers. The one who wears the crown is the one who leads. Kiko's plan was simple, which was the most dangerous kind of plan. Every morning before King Roar woke up, the crown sat on a low branch near the great rock where the king always rested it for the night. All Kiko had to do was climb down quietly, take the crown before the king woke, put it on his own head, and sit on the great rock before anyone noticed the difference. He almost made it. He had the crown in his hands. He could feel the soft jungle flowers against his fingers. Flowers, by the way, are the colorful parts of a plant, and they smell sweet and grow in all colors, like red, yellow, purple, and pink. He was 3 steps from the great rock when King Roar opened one enormous golden eye. Kiko did the only logical thing. He put the crown on his head and ran. He ran through the ferns, over the river rocks, up 3 trees, and across the canopy of the entire east side of the jungle before he finally stopped, gasping, on a high branch near the waterfall. The crown was lopsided on his head. One of the flowers had fallen off. He was breathing very hard. Pip caught up to him 4 minutes later. She was not even slightly out of breath because she had flown, which Kiko felt was completely unfair. She looked at the crown on his head. She looked at Kiko. She said, "And now what?" Kiko straightened the crown with great dignity. He said, "Now the animals will see the crown, and they will know I am king, and they will listen to me," Pip said. "Or they will see a small monkey wearing a very big crown sideways, and they will laugh." As it happened, they did not laugh. Something stranger occurred. The first animal Kiko encountered was old Ellie the elephant, who was so nearsighted that from a distance all she could see was something on a high branch wearing the royal crown. She bowed her great gray head and said, "Good morning, Your Majesty. The river is running low on the its ice north side today, and the zebra herd is blocking the drinking path again. Someone ought to sort it out." Kiko blinked. Then he said, in his most important voice, that he would sort it out at once. Ellie nodded and walked away. Kiko looked at Pip. Pip looked at Kiko. She said, "You have absolutely no idea what to do about any of that, do you?" Kiko said he was figuring it out. He was not figuring it out. The rest of the morning was a disaster of the most spectacular kind. The zebras would not move from the drinking path because they were in the middle of an argument about whose stripes were more impressive. Stripes, as you probably know, are the black and white lines on a zebra's body. And every zebra believes their stripes are the finest in the jungle. Kiko tried explaining that stripes were stripes and they should all move along. This made the argument worse. Then 2 young crocodiles got stuck fighting over a fish in the shallow part of the river. Kiko tried to settle it by offering them a mango instead. Crocodiles, it emerged, do not want mangoes. They want fish. They also want to be left alone by small monkeys wearing crowns. Then a family of birds could not agree on which tree was theirs, and their chirping was so loud it was giving old Ellie a headache. By midday, Kiko was sitting on a muddy river rock, crown now thoroughly sideways, a mango in his hand that nobody wanted, 4 animals still arguing around him, and the very strong feeling that king was perhaps not the job he had imagined. Pip sat beside him. She said very kindly that ruling was harder than watching. Kiko said nothing. He ate his mango. Then the sound came. It started low, a rumble like thunder that was still far away, but moving closer. The birds went silent. The zebras stopped arguing. Old Ellie raised her great head and her ears went flat, which in elephant language means something is very wrong. Pip said quietly, "Wildfire, north side of the jungle." Kiko looked. Through the trees, in the direction of the low river and the dry grass, there was a line of orange at the horizon. Fire! And the wind was carrying it toward the sleeping dens, where the smaller animals, the rabbits, the mice, the young deer, had made their homes in the low brush. Every animal in the clearing turned and looked at the crown on Kiko's head. There was a silence that lasted exactly 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, Kiko felt everything at once. He felt a very strong urge to climb the tallest tree and wait for it all to be over. He also felt, for the first time in his life, something else. Something heavier and less comfortable than the urge to run. It was the feeling of knowing that everyone was looking at him, and not with laughter, with something that looked terrifyingly like hope. Pip said softly, so only he could hear, "You can run, or you can be what you pretended to be." Kiko took a breath. He looked at the fire. He thought very fast about what he knew. He knew the jungle better than any other animal, every branch, every vine, every path. He could move faster through the treetops than anything. And he had spent his whole life watching, which meant he had spent his whole life learning, even when he did not know he was learning. He stood up on the river rock. He shouted in the loudest voice he had, and Kiko, when he wanted to be, was very loud indeed, that everybody needed to listen right now. He told the elephants to go to the river and start splashing water onto the dry grass at the south edge, using their trunks. A trunk is the long nose of an elephant, and it can hold a huge amount of water. He told the birds to fly ahead to the sleeping dens and wake every small animal and lead them to the rocky clearing where the fire could not reach. He told the zebras, all of them, stripes and all, to form a line and stomp the dry grass flat on the east path to slow the fire's spread. And then, before anyone could ask any more questions, he swung up into the canopy and began moving through the trees faster than he ever had in his life, calling directions, checking paths, making sure no one was left behind. It took 2 hours. It was loud and smoky, and nothing went exactly as planned. The youngest deer panicked and ran the wrong way, and Kiko had to drop from a branch and redirect her personally. One of the crocodiles, misunderstanding the instructions entirely, began splashing water in completely the wrong direction. Pip flew corrections like a tiny green general, relaying Kiko's instructions to anyone who could not hear him through the smoke. But when the fire reached the rocky clearing, it found nothing left to burn. Every small animal was safe. The dry grass on the east path was flat. The river water had done its work. Kiko sat on the great rock, the real one, in the center of the clearing, and he was so tired that he forgot to sit up straight. The crown was now so crooked it was practically falling off his ear. His fur was smoky, and his arms ached, and he had a mango leaf stuck to his tail. King Roar walked into the clearing. He was not angry. Kiko had expected angry. The lion looked at the clearing, at all the animals safe, at the smoke dying on the north edge, at Kiko on the great rock with a lopsided crown. And his great golden face did something Kiko had never seen it do before. It went warm. Not smile. Lions do not smile exactly, but warm. He walked to the rock and sat beside Kiko, which was a very unusual thing for a king to do. He said in a low voice that only Kiko could hear that stealing his crown was foolish. Kiko said he knew that. King Roar said that what Kiko had done today was not foolish. Kiko said nothing because his throat was doing something unexpected. King Roar said, "A king is not the one who wears the crown. A king is the one who knows the jungle, every path, every creature, every need, and uses that knowledge when it matters most. You have known this jungle your whole life, little monkey. You just did not know that knowing it was enough." He stood, he turned. He said over his shoulder that Kiko could keep the crown tonight. He needed a new one anyway. This one had lost 3 flowers. Pip landed on Kiko's shoulder. She looked at the crown. She looked at the smoky jungle. She looked at Kiko. She said very quietly that she supposed that had gone better than expected. Kiko said it had gone exactly as planned. Pip said she had been there from the beginning, and she was quite certain that was not true. Kiko grinned. His tail curled up behind him the way it did when he was happy. He looked out at the jungle, his jungle, the one he had watched his whole life from the top of his mango tree, and for the first time he was not watching it with wanting. He was watching it with something quieter and much better than that. He was watching it with knowing.